Shakyamunye Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamunye Swaha Sashipeki Chushimeto Tramare Rabalingshi Nidegempadi Sange Shintu Mikte Ulvarki Drokunanam Dashin Chöpar Shoyidam Guru Ratna Mandral Kam Niryata Yami Sangye Chudan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Shoya Sangye Chudan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni, possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Laie che da ludan cinque rubundanda mi che namda ruwa kuinge janamachi zampa tamche che tu dagi che tenta. Buongiorno. Good morning. Okay. So, when we make an objective, when we place ourselves a commitment to do something, one of the very important things that we need to do is to create the right conditions, create particularly space to help us to do what we want to do. No? And then there are different types of spaces. There is temporal space, physical space, mental space. So, first of all, we have the temporal space, time space, which basically is placing a spot in our agenda and writing down, from this time to this time, I will do this. From this day to that day, I will do this. In my life, I have seen it's incredible. The power of agenda is quite incredible, you know. You look in the diary, you look there is nothing to do, that it's empty. Then suddenly you write something there, and by the power of writing there, now you need to do it. It's quite strange, actually, no? Because it's written there, now you need to do it. Or what do I need to do today? We look at this thing. Oh, I need to do this, this, and that. Why? Because we said it at one point. So, we need to create space in time. If we wait the day when maybe it will happen, it never really comes. We need, with awareness, to make space in time. I will meditate from this time to that time, this day and that day. I like to dedicate my time to study, or I need to give some time to stay with my friends and family and partners. From this time to that time, I need to dedicate quality time for this, I need that time for that, you know. We live in a society nowadays in which we are very much, slave by time, in a way. Everything is within a time schedule, very often. And we are taught to be like this since we are children, no? Since childhood in the school, we have all timetables, we need to respect time, our schedule is completely full, you know? So we learn to be in this way, so it's okay. We need to use this structure, because this is the structure in which most of us are. We need to put our practice inside of it also. Okay? Because if we wait the day when the conditions will come and the right moment will ripen, it doesn't happen. It's in our hand creating the moment, to create the moment. Okay? Then we have physical space, which means to do the meditation, we choose a physical place where to meditate. We dedicate a space, physical space, in our house, in the place where we live, specifically for meditation, for the practice. Otherwise, one day we want to do the practice in one place, then there is someone else there, and then there is another day we want to do there, and we are not comfortable there, whatever. We need to make physical space. And we make mental space by generating the intention. I want to do this. This is important to me. I commit myself to do this. Okay? What happens is that this is, in generally speaking, particularly with meditation, with study, we need to make space in our life. But here we have a problem when it comes to Lojong training. To make the meditation, such as the meditation of Tonglen and the other meditations, it's okay to allocate time, to make physical space for it. That's fine, and it's very important also. But we have one issue, which our objective as a training of mind is to train ourselves in love, compassion, in altruism, in the mind of relative bodhicitta, and in absolute bodhicitta, correct view of reality. Okay? What happens is that if I sit down to meditate 2 hours a day, how many hours do you think you can sit down to meditate every day? 5? 8? 12? 1? Half? Okay, half an hour maybe, yes? 15 minutes? 15 minutes, maybe? I don't know, we need to see. Each one our true reality, what we are able to do. The main issue is that in the moment that we are sitting there and focusing ourselves to do the meditation, such as Tonglen, or to meditate in the taking of refuge and in the Four Noble Truths and in the preciousness of this life and in the certainty of death and all of that, wonderful. We can put time to dedicate for that. We do it through recitation, with visualization, with single-pointed meditation. We can do it in many ways. Analytical meditation. We can take time to dedicate to familiarize ourselves and train ourselves in love, compassion, and wisdom. Okay? And let's say we are very diligent and we are able to sit down and meditate for 3 hours a day. 1.5 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours in the evening. Between these, we do our sadhanas, guru yoga, whatever. So we are all self-healing. We are familiarizing ourselves with our virtues, qualities, familiarizing ourselves with bodhichitta. Wonderful. The problem is what happens in the other 21 hours. If in the other 21 hours, we are familiarizing ourselves with love, compassion, wisdom, or are we familiarizing ourselves with distraction, attachment, unlimited desire, hatred, jealousy, envy, fear, anger, ignorance? What are we familiarizing ourselves with? Because, as I said from the very beginning, this is not a matter of learning a technique just for theoretical knowledge. It's a matter of training one's own mind to develop love and wisdom, which is a life dedication. So, it's not a small problem that we find here. Huh? Let's say we can be very diligent and being very sincere, looking at the life of most people that I know. I don't see us meditating 12 hours a day. Okay, if we do practices and meditation all together for 3 hours a day, it's already a lot. And we're able to keep it very diligently. That's wonderful. Then, as Atisha said, the problem is that the rest of the day, or we are distracted or we are sleeping. No? Distracted means distracted from the path, from the training. Not distracted, intended as that we are stay the whole day like this, no? Looking somewhere. No. We are distracted, we can be concentrated in our work, we can be concentrated in solving the problems in the family relations, we can be concentrated into eating a nice meal and going to a nice place and doing many things, solving the many daily problems. But being concentrated in all of this doesn't mean that we are focused on our training. We can be distracted from the training. Okay? And the problem is that right now we do have all the conditions to be able to do this training, but we are going to die. And we don't know when. And dying is not a problem. The problem is losing the opportunity that we do have now. So what do we do? Shall we sit down and sleep for 6 hours and meditate for the 18 hours remaining? We are not able. Okay. So what shall we do? For our fortune, one important part of the mind training is the third point, which is called transforming the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. We need to train and learn how to continue our training on love, compassion, altruism, bodhicitta, wisdom, on every circumstance, on every moment. So there needs to be a constant awareness that, okay, bodhicitta, love, compassion, correct view of reality. There should be a constant awareness. And we don't look for the right circumstance and conditions to practice. We use every circumstance as the best circumstance for the practice. I don't know if it's clear the difference. It's a very big difference. We don't wait and look for the right conditions for our spiritual practice. We make out of every condition the best condition for the spiritual practice. And with this, then we can truly make good use of every moment that we have in our life, and we can continue our training at every moment. It doesn't matter if we are with our family, if we are in a meeting of our job, if we are relaxing on the seaside, if we are meditating in a monastery in the mountains of Tibet. Okay? We can actually be able to make every moment part of our path. And this is one of the very special things of Lojong teachings, of the mind training. It gives us the tools to do that. There are other teachings and other methods that are really good, but they require many conditions. They require silence, they require you to be out of distractions, require not to be in the presence of other people of certain types of attitudes and behaviors. It requires many, many other conditions. But truth be told, it's very difficult to gain all these conditions nowadays. So the teachings of Lojong, the method of Lojong, and that's what we will see now, allows us to use whatever circumstance is there, whatever situation is there, as a method to increase our two bodhicittas, to increase love, compassion, relative bodhicitta, and wisdom. Okay? And this is really, really important. So let's go through this. We go page 41. We are at the third point of the mind training. And today I will go directly through the text a little bit faster than the other days because we don't have so much time left and there is a lot to see yet. So we will see if in these next 2 days, today and tomorrow, we go through the whole 3 points, which is very much possible also because we went in very much details up to now, and this gives us a good basis to go through the rest. Okay, and then if we find out which is not enough, then we'll make another time, another moment to finish the last part. But I think we can manage without problem. Sumba kinge chanchup ki lam tu gyurwanis. Third, transforming adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. Nöchu dikpe kangwetse kinge chanchu lam tu gyur. Chela kangtuk gomla jar jorwa shiden tapki chok. When the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, transform adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. When the environment and its inhabitants, nöchu in Tibetan. Now, Tibetan is a beautiful language also because with so very little sound you can say so much. No? Like when you translate, you say, the environment and its inhabitants. In Tibetan, you say nöchu. Okay? Nö means container, environment. Chu means what is inside the container, the content. Container and content. That's what it means. Environment, the container, and the content of the environment, all the beings that live within it. Okay? Nöchu. Dikpe kangwetse, when the container and the content, when the environment and its beings are overflown, are completely filled up with negativities, with unwholesomeness, okay? Which means when the other beings around us treat us with aggressiveness, with violence, with ways that generates us, that we experience with suffering, Okay? And the environment around us becomes hostile also, so there is too much hot or cold or whatever other reasons that the environment become unfriendly. When we are in difficult situations where both the environment and the beings that are within the environment interact with us in a way that for us is difficult to deal with, in a way that we suffer through that interaction, okay? Transform these adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. In the Guru Puja, it is very precise, the way how it is described, this part, in which it says, no? Now, Nöchu dikbe trebu yonkante mido dunga chartar bab gyurkya lenge trebu sebe kyurtone kenge lam tu longwar chingi lop. Hello, where are you? Yeah, verse 96. Okay. Can someone get me an English version of the Guru Puja, please? Because otherwise it's just easier to read the translation. Thank you, Rohir. Thank you very much. Okay, it says, and here there was originally a small mistake in the translation, which, let's see if it was changed or not, but it changed completely the meaning of this part of the practice. It says, verse 96, should even the environment and its beings, and the beings therein, be filled with the fruits of karmic depths, and unwished for suffering pour down like rain, we seek your blessings to take these miserable conditions as a path by seeing them as causes to exhaust the results of our negative karma. Before, there was one small word here that changed completely the meaning, which was saying, should even the environment and the beings therein be filled with the fruits of their karmic depths? No. What's saying here is that should even the environment and the beings therein manifest the results of my own negative karma, which means should the environment be unfriendly, should the beings be unfriendly to me, may I be able to see this as a path as a way to increase my own path by seeing them as causes that are extinguishing my own negative karma. So, let's see. There are two main ways how to transform the adverse circumstances into the path. Okay? The first one, which is the most simple one, is the one that has been explained here, is that which normally in our tendency is when we are in a situation, in a difficult situation, in adverse circumstance, our tendency is, one, to victimize ourselves. Two, we react towards the outer world. We take refuge into external conditions. Oh, you are being not nice to me, the other one is acting in a violent way, this situation is not good. So we see, okay, I am suffering because the world is not good. We project the suffering around. By world, I don't mean the planet Earth and the world. I mean the situation around us. Okay? So, our tendency is we project outside and we victimize ourselves. And then we develop attraction towards something and aversion towards something else. This is the normal way. Here what we do, I am in the situation, which is difficult. I understand that my own suffering, it's a result of the actions that I have created myself in the past. I have a clear awareness of the law of karma. I have a clear awareness that I cannot experience anything if I do not create the causes to experience it. So, if you remember clearly when we explained karma, when it was now I don't remember, some days ago, there was a moment in which we explained the 4 characteristics of karma, and one of them is we cannot experience anything without having created the causes. There is no result without causes, and the results manifest through sensation. Okay? So when we are experiencing any sensation, we know, okay, this is coming because at some point, somewhere, some action was done that now it's ripening and manifesting the results. So first thing, we should stop victimizing ourselves. We should stop blaming others. What is happening around us is a condition through which the causes that we created in the past are ripening. Okay? If we had not created the causes, we would never, ever experience the results. Okay? So, we do not blame one person or one situation. We don't even need to look to blame anyone. What we do is that as we experience the difficult circumstance, we see it as a way of actually, using a metaphor, of paying our debt. Let's say we have a mortgage in the bank, and every month we pay the mortgage. Okay? Is it pleasurable to pay the mortgage? Is it something like, oh, so nice, now I'm paying my monthly mortgage, you know? I don't think it's pleasurable to pay the mortgage. Okay? And yet, every time we pay the mortgage, we make it lesser. So it's a good thing. Are we happy that the mortgage gets smaller? Are we happy that our debt is getting less and less? Yes. But how can we make our mortgage to get lesser? By paying it. Or by getting a sort of amnesty. Okay? There is no other way. So, what happens is that whenever we pay the debt, we make it lesser. So we should be happy when we pay our mortgage. We say, okay, I'm making it lesser. Ah, that's good. Still to come, but I'm making it lesser. Okay? We bring with us, we carry with us a lot of karmic forces, inertias, from all the different actions that we have done in the past. And we do not remember which actions we did, and we have no awareness of all the karmic forces that we take with us. But when we experience a sensation of suffering or an unpleasant sensation, we are ripening some negative karmic force that we generated in the past. So we say, okay, at least I am making some negative karmic force to disappear. I'm making it less. Now, the process of purification is not done by generating suffering. Otherwise, it may seem here like, okay, to purify my karma, I must suffer a lot. If it was in this way, we would have purification retreats, and we will sell in the shop some very nice malas with, metal points, and we will do many other techniques to go and to do our own process of purification, okay? And we could use our creativity in so many different ways. But that's not the point. At no moment I ever saw teaching saying that we must suffer because we need to purify. I never saw that anywhere. But yet, when we suffer, because it happens, we are paying our debts. So to have this awareness in the moment that suffering manifests, when the environment and its beings are unfriendly to us, when there are difficult circumstances in our life, if instead of blaming others and pointing the finger and victimizing oneself and reacting often with aggression towards others, we recognize what I am experiencing is the result of my own actions. It's difficult, but it's good that I am paying some debts. Okay? So the problems should be solved, the pain should be dealt with, but as we experience suffering, we are not requesting to suffer more and we are not looking for more suffering. We are just acknowledging and embracing suffering instead of saying, oh, I need to blame someone and go against others. We are saying, okay, this is what I did, now I am paying the price, but at least, the debt gets lesser and lesser. It's like I have one negative force lesser with me, okay? There was one of the gurus of Lama Michel Rinpoche in Tashilumpa monastery in Tibet. Was his first teacher when he was small. I think, if I remember well, was Kachem Pembala, his name. Anyhow. He was a humble practitioner, a very important master in the monastery of Tashilumpa, and he was the one that Rinpoche would go to receive base instructions and teachings when he was very small. Rinpoche started receiving teachings with him, if I remember well, when Rinpoche was 3 years old. No? And he was start living in Tashilumpa when Rinpoche was 5, something like that. And he would go every day to him before dawn, and his teacher would never lay down to sleep. One of my teachers in Tibet still does like this. They don't have a bed. Which is nighttime, they just sit in meditation. And in the morning time, they do self-generation from clear light, they appear as the deity and they start the day again. Okay? And they rest actually. I think many of them, those that really know how to do, they rest their body better than us sleeping and dreaming with who knows what. Okay? And having difficulty to sleep and this and that, no? So Kachem Pembala was the same way. He would never lay down to sleep. Rinpoche would go there early morning, before sunrise. Going from his room, he would go through the main assembly hall of Tashilumpa as he was a kid, and he would do what traditions tell us to do, which up to now children do, is that the entrance of most of the main important monasteries in Tibet, where there is the main door, there is one part in the entrance of the door. I don't know how to say that in English. It's part of the structure of the door, okay? So, of the frame of the door, the lower part of the frame. Yeah, and it's made, the one of Tashilumpa is made of silver. Okay? You are not allowed to step on it. Some monasteries, if you step on it, you are expelled from the monastery. So you're not allowed to step on it. And every morning, the small children, as they enter, what they do is before going to study, they go there, they do Om Arapatsanadi, which is the mantra of wisdom, and then they lick it. And then they do Om Arapatsanadi. This is said to increment intelligence, to increase intelligence. Rinpoche did it a lot. And many other children, they do it. So it's a classical thing in Tashilumpa. I saw it a few times. You see the children before sunrise, they go there with their clothes, they clean it first, and then they go there and they lick it, and Om Arapatsanadi, and then they lick again and they clean again. And anyhow, then they go to their teachers to start study. So Rinpoche would go to his own master, and he was sitting in meditation. No? He was sitting there in the morning. So Rinpoche would arrive, would sit near to him, would touch a little bit his leg to say, oh, I'm here. And then he would just go, and then Rinpoche, he would give a sign to show Rinpoche that he understood. And then Rinpoche would recite the verses that he memorized in the previous day. And then the teacher would just verbally, without any text, will say the next lines to him. And he would make Rinpoche to repeat after him the line. And Rinpoche would stay by his side, repeating the line until he memorized it. His teacher was in meditation. Then when he finished memorizing the line, he would go there and say it, give a sign and say, okay, I finished memorizing. And he will recite it, and then he will say the next verse. So Rinpoche was like this for a few years, going every morning. And he memorized something like maybe at least 1,000 pages like this. Which is whenever a monk enters the monastery of Tashilhunpo, before becoming a formal monk, actually before you are not going beyond being a novice, there must be memorized 2 volumes, needs to be fully memorized, which are all the prayers and sadhanas that are recited in the monastery. Everything needs to be known by heart before you truly enter the monastery. And if you'll make 4 lines a day, it takes 5 years. So the maximum time anyone has to do it is 5 years. If you don't do it in 5 years, ciao. So this is how it's tradition in Tashilhunpo Monastery, so Rinpoche was going there. So anyhow, this is just to picture a little bit the relationship of Rinpoche with his master, okay? So one day, due to many circumstances, which I don't need to go into details now, Rinpoche left Tashilhunpo. Okay? Basically, he was 12, and he had his personal teacher, not his master, was the one taking care of him. And Rinpoche was a very, active child with a lot of energy. So basically, his teacher didn't like something, he did something naughty, not supposed to do, whatever. And as it was common in Tibet at the time, and as it was common in Europe not long ago, he beat him. But he beat Rinpoche quite badly. So Rinpoche escaped from the monastery. So Rinpoche escaped through the gutters of the water, like dirty water channel. And making a long story short, he ended up in his own monastery. It was a family that found him on the way, disciples of his previous life, and so on. This made him to go to the monastery of Ganchen, where he stayed for 1 or 2 years, continuing studies there. And then one time there were other problems and difficulties in the monastery of Ganchen, which we don't need to go into details now just because it makes it too long. And he went to see Trichan Rinpoche. Trichan Rinpoche was passing by. And then he said the difficulties he had with Trichan Rinpoche, and Trichan Rinpoche said, okay, I give you 2 possibilities. He said, how much have you studied up to now? How much have you memorized? And Rinpoche did more or less like this. This amount of pages means. And Trichan Rinpoche said, very good. But to become a real Lama, you need to do much, much more than that. I give you a choice. Do you want to become a real Lama? Or I can give you a very good title, and then, no one will ever bother you anymore. There is a title from the Tibetan government at the time in Tibet, and he said, okay, I have a position of power, I can give you this title, and once you have this title, anywhere you go here in Tibet at the time, everyone will respect you, no one will ever make trouble to you anymore. So you can choose, do you want the title, or you want I send you to study to become a real Lama? And Rinpoche said, oh, send me to study. So then Rinpoche went to study in Sera Monastery. Okay? But before going to Sera, he passed through his teacher to say, okay, Trichan Rinpoche gave me this opportunity, I'm going to Sera. His guru in Tashilhunpo was very happy about it. And then we come to the point of all this story. He said to him something which is quite difficult to understand, and Rinpoche himself was in shock. He said to Rinpoche, oh, please, I am already very old, and he was very old actually. He said, make prayers. I believe very much in you, as Rinpoche was the reincarnation of his own master's guru. So Rinpoche's previous life was the guru of his master. So he said, I have a lot of faith on you, Rinpoche. please pray for me. I am already very old. I already did what I need to do in this life. Please pray for me that I get a very bad sickness before I die. And Rinpoche was saying, what are you talking about, No, I would never pray for this. And then he was saying, yes. That's what I want. And then Rinpoche said, okay, you are my teacher. I do what you tell me to do. I don't understand it really. And some years later, Rinpoche came back to Tashilhunpo. And he went to see his guru. At that time, there was no telephone. There was no internet. So there was not like everyday news, no? So Rinpoche went to see him. And when Rinpoche was there, he was very happy to see Rinpoche. And he was saying, thank you, Rinpoche. Your prayers worked. And he had a big sort of tumor in his throat, and he had like a sort of hole, and he couldn't really speak well, and eating was difficult. It was a really difficult situation. And he was smiling and saying, Rinpoche, I got what I wanted, And Rinpoche told him, can you explain it to me? What's the point of this, no? I think at that time Rinpoche was 15 or something like that. And he said to him, in this life, I already did what I was supposed to do. This body was in good service for me this whole life. This body gave me what I needed. It served me very well in this life. But now I am about to leave this body behind. But before I leave this body behind, I make it pay some debts that I have. So I prefer to leave this debt here and to go to my next life more light than to take these debts with me. Okay? This is something that is this type of thing that when it's showing TV and it says, don't try at home. Okay? This is the sort of thing which can only be done by someone that have the true awareness and capacity and stability and peace of mind and everything. Okay? So, here, my point is we don't need to go to look and pray to get sickness and difficulties. We already have enough difficulties and problems in the life of most of us, and they come. One time in my life I did this prayer. I was young. My life was really good. Everything was wonderful. I had nothing at all to complain about. Everything was really good. So I was in Borobudur with Rinpoche, and I made this prayer. I said, my life is so good. Everything is so wonderful. But if I really need to help others, how can I help others to deal with their difficulties if I never go through difficulties myself? It was just to make the request, Then they all start coming. One after the other. So we don't need to make such requests, generally speaking, because most of the time we have difficulties in our life. But the point here is that how do we relate with the difficulties? And here there are two ways. First way, we do not blame others. We do not victimize ourselves. We do not look for the one to blame. We recognize that what we are experiencing is the result of our own actions, and we make sure that we don't create a new debt to pay the old one. We make sure that we do not react with more defilements, with more anger and jealousy and aversion and unlimited attachment and insatisfaction and arrogance and so on, in front of the difficult situation we are. Because what we do often is that in order to pay one debt, we create another one. So we cannot do that. So first thing, stop victimizing oneself, stop blaming others, not even blaming oneself. There is no point of blaming anyone here. It's just a matter of recognition. What I am experiencing now is the result of actions that were done in the past. I am happy that these actions, this karmic force is being extinguished. Okay? And I will not allow myself to enter into a new negative cycle. I will not react out of this situation. I will not react with aversion. I will not react with aggression. I will not react with violence and so on. Okay? So, there are many stories that we could talk about this, but I think it's very clear, the point up to here, right? Good. The other way of dealing with adverse circumstances, which is mainly for the smaller adverse circumstances, but also for the biggest ones, is that every situation that we go through, it is like a sound that comes inside of us and resonates something inside of us. You know, not long ago, I had a very clear experience for myself. I went through 2 situations in a short period of time, in which the first situation was something apparently very difficult, in a common way of seeing a difficult situation. Okay? Something that is not an unpleasant, difficult, painful type of situation. But for many different reasons, I experienced it without losing my own peace. I was fine. You know, I was not hoping to repeat that again. It's not something I said, oh, how nice what is happening and I'm going through. But I was not truly suffering within it. I was okay. You know, I was peaceful. Then, short time after, there was another situation, which was something quite small and simple and trivial, nothing big. Huh? And then I experienced suffering through it. I lost the peace that I had in the other situation. So I started looking to myself and saying, but why? And what I saw very clearly at that moment was that when I go through any situation, which means any words that someone says, anything that I see, any situation that I go through, the situation is like a sound that plays. It goes inside of me. If it resonates with something that is inside that is not well, I experience that moment through that experience, through that memory, through that inner feeling. So, for example, in the second situation, there were things within me that are not resolved, that at the moment were not resolved, that at the moment I connected with wounds that I hold inside myself. I connected with things that are not solved clearly inside myself. So even though apparently the situation was something very small, it touched a point that is painful inside of me. So I experienced that situation with pain. It's clear, right? Instead, I can be in the most difficult situation if it's not touching anything inside me that is painful. If there is not touching anything that is unresolved, conflicts and so on, I will leave that situation, I will experience it with peace. I will not lose my inner peace as I go through the situation. And I could see this very clearly, for example, with Lama Michel Rinpoche. I saw Rinpoche in his lifetime in many difficult situations. It's not that the life of Rinpoche was always easy and pleasurable. No. I saw people going against Rinpoche in a very, very strong way. I saw Rinpoche being criticized in many ways for things that actually he didn't do. I saw him being judged in a very strong way, ingratitude. I saw many sorts of things. And I also saw sickness and pain. But the beautiful thing was in all these moments, when I looked clearly to Rinpoche, I could see that he never lost his peace. It didn't mean there was no pain. It didn't mean there was no difficult situations to deal with, but his inner peace was intact. Basically, my understanding, one of the reasons, is because there is no any conflict that it goes to touch inside. Everything inside is peaceful, so whatever comes inside, it resonates back peacefully. Okay? So, when we react with sadness, with resentment, with aggression, with insatisfaction, with fear, with whatever negative emotion that comes through, and we react and we experience the situation with suffering, when we lose our own state of inner peace, it's not because of the situation. It's because that situation resonates inside of us. Something that is not, well, it touches some wounds. It touches conflicts that we have within ourselves. And then they manifest. Okay? So, through the awareness of this and the clear intention that our main objective is not to be in a perfect world, but our main objective is to know and to learn how to interact to the world in a peaceful way. It doesn't matter where we are, what happens. It's not a matter of changing the world, it's a matter of changing the way how we relate to the world. When we are in a circumstance that awakens some wounds that we have inside, or some conflicts that we have inside, and so on, we look to the situation and we say, thank you. Thank you that you show me what normally I couldn't see. And here it is said in the teachings of Lojong, it comes to one point which says, when we practice this, our enemies becomes our best friends. Because the difficult circumstances, they will be a mirror to show us where do we need to direct the light, where do we need to work. It's like sometimes there is one thing which is very normal, it's very natural, it's very spontaneous to do. Okay, so I'm not making any criticism, I'm just taking it as a metaphor, okay? Sometimes people come and say, oh Lama, I am worried, I need to go to do an exam. Can you please pray for me? And sometimes I wonder, what shall I pray for? That you want that nothing appears in your exam? That you want that your exam appear things as clear as possible? Or you are asking prayers that you can be peaceful at whatever results of the exam? You know? But somehow we're in our mind, we have an exam, we hope nothing will appear there. Oh please, I hope nothing appears in the exam. Okay? Yes, then we can pay someone in the hospital to make our exam. If something is bad, they take away, you know, so they don't show to us. That's not what we need. If we go to do an exam, our prayers should be, oh, please, may whatever sickness, whatever unbalance is there, may it appear in the most clear way as possible. Because I have the means to deal with it. And the problems, the conflict, can only be truly solved once we see them. We can have a very powerful light. If we don't know where is the shadow, we cannot take away the darkness. We need to know where to direct the light. It's like the ancient example that is given is we can be extremely good with bow and arrow. But if we don't know where is the target, we will miss it. We need to see the target. It's like we can have the best medicines in our hand, but if we do not have the right diagnosis, we will not know how to apply them. So having a correct diagnosis is one of the most important things in the process of healing. Or not? I have seen people that went to many doctors and they couldn't get cured. Not because the doctors were not good enough, but because through many conditions they were not able to make a good, correct, clear diagnosis. Sometimes some people, through their own complexity of their own sickness and karma, whatever, It's like if the sickness doesn't allow truly to appear its true face. You cannot see really what is happening inside. It happens sometimes. So whenever there is a problem, whenever there is a conflict, wherever there is sickness, the first really important thing is to have a very clear diagnosis. So we shouldn't be afraid to see the problem, to see and recognize the sickness, as long as we are willing to go through a process of healing. So, in our mind training, one of our objectives is to develop our qualities to overcome our defilements. We talked a lot about this in the previous days. We talk about the 3 ways not to block and not to follow the negative emotions. Then next step we go to apply the antidotes and then to recognize the energy. We talked about many things. Okay? There are many methods that we can apply here. But I cannot deal with my arrogance if I don't see it. I cannot deal with my anger if I don't see it. I cannot deal truly with my unlimited attachment if I don't see it. And sometimes our defilements are deeply hidden inside of us in many subtle ways. And the best way to see them is to go through difficult situations. It's like one time there was a monk, he was making retreat. One Lama came to see him. And then the Lama asked, "What are you making retreat about?" And very proudly he answered, "I am meditating on patience. I'm cultivating patience, meditating on patience." And the Lama said, "Oh, so good." Then he spit on his face and hit him. And he stepped backwards and this monk was wanting to beat him back, you know. And then he just came to him nicely and he said, "Remember, without an object of anger, you cannot practice patience." Okay. So, the difficult circumstances that we go through in our life are not the actual causes of our suffering. They are the conditions through which our karma and our own inner defilements manifest. So, karmic way, we understand that this is the result of our actions and we say, okay, good, I am making my karmic debt lesser. From defilement way, we say, oh, that's an opportunity to see where is the defilement so I can apply the right antidote. Okay? So, here comes one point which in the commentary of Geshe Rinpoche, I was reading it before, he explains it clearly, which is, we should not be afraid of pain and suffering. Because the fear of pain, the fear of suffering, puts us into a position of defense, puts us into a position of counter-attack, puts us into a position of pre-suffering what may one day happen, put us into a position of resentment. Okay? And in one way, by fearing suffering, we suffer much more. In the other way, by fearing suffering, we put our energy in order to eliminate the symptom and not the sickness. Have you ever yourself or seen someone else wanting to avoid a particular treatment that is good for us because we don't like the treatment? Can it happen? I saw people, for example, with acupuncture. I know it's very good for me, but I don't like needles.
Unless you have some real sort of trauma that it's like really difficult, okay, then we need to deal with that. But if it is the simple fact, I don't like it, oh, it's a little painful when they enter, sometimes it's painful. Okay, then you remain with your sickness, no? One time I was in Tibet, in Tashilhunpo clinic. Tashilhunpo monastery has a clinic where the main doctors are all monks. And I was doing some days there of sort of training. I was studying a little bit of Tibetan medicine. I was following up the treatments they were doing. I was looking a little bit at that. And one day came one old lady. Two, actually. One had, they both had problems of not sleeping. They had a lot of insomnia, and they had a lot of anxiety and difficulty sleeping. So to one of them, the Tibetan doctor saw, and he did moksha, this fire burning, heat, on her chest, here, on here, and on the back. And it was interesting in many ways. One way was to see the difference between our culture of the relation with the body. The lady went there, she took her upper part of her clothes off. The doctor needed to find the center part, which needed to be measured by the breasts, so he took the breasts, he measured in his hand, without any sort of problems, no any taboo of whatsoever, okay? And then he measured, and then he put a little bit of garlic, took glue, and then he put the moksha there, he starts burning, and then he was there, it's like very, very strong blowing on it, and you could see clearly that it was burning. And the lady was there in the beginning, very calmly, then you could see her face a little bit like this. And then until the moksha popped out, like poof, And then remained a big mark of burn. And then he takes some butter, he puts some butter on it. And I asked, oh, but can it get maybe, like a pus and a wound? And he said, yes. And then I said, but she will sleep. And then he did the same thing in the back. I saw the lady 1 week after she came back, and I said, oh, how are you? He was treating the wound that was created, actually. And then she said, oh, I'm so good, I'm sleeping. And about the wound, oh, who cares about that, The important is that I'm sleeping. And then another one had a similar type of problem. And another technique, these are techniques that in the Western world simply cannot be applied. The other technique was similar type of moksha on the head, where they have specific points for lung, for the wind disorder. And in this case, they make, it's a metal thing, where the tip can be in gold or in silver or in copper, whatever. This one was silver, I think. They make it red hot, and then they go on the point and do shh, And in few points, they have a way of measuring, and they do that. And I said, but hair will not grow there anymore. They say, yes, it will not. And then I was and then they were both, the patient and the doctor, looking to me and saying, and so what, Now she can sleep again. Okay. But if I ask myself, in our context, we see this as something terrible. But the medicines many people take to sleep, do they leave side effects? So if I need to choose having some pain and no more hair, and being able to sleep, no more hair in that specific point, and being able to sleep, or taking something that will make many other sort of side effects, I choose the ch in my head. But this is, anyhow. But the point that I want to come is that very often in cultures like in Tibetan or Chinese culture, in Eastern cultures, and I think in the Western world some time ago also, people make no problem to go through pain, as long as it brings a longer-term benefit. So a short-term pain that brings a middle, long-term benefit is welcome. In our culture, nowadays, I don't see it in this way. We have so much fear of suffering, so much fear of pain, in many levels. That any small difficulty, we need to deal with it right away, we need to avoid, and we create a lot of mental suffering in the whole process. So my point here is that we shall not fear pain, uncomfort. We shall fear anger, jealousy, miserliness, arrogance, anxiety. We should fear the causes of suffering, not the result itself. Okay? So when suffering manifests, and it does manifest in life, when there are difficult circumstances that we go through and it happens, instead of trying to change the world, we still solve the problem. Huh? We still go to the doctor, we take the medicine, we take the painkiller, we try to look for a solution for our financial problem, we look for a way how to deal with our relationship issue, whatever it may be. We look for a solution in the problem, but we see the situation that we are going through clearly as an opportunity to see what are the defilements that manifest from within. It is our opportunity to see clearly who we are, to see aspects of ourselves that in other moments we may not be able to see. And some people say, oh, but I don't want to look at them. If you have the priority, the intention to grow, to see one's own defilements and to deal with them, we need to see them. No problem. The important thing here is that this can only be done without an attitude of guilt. When we see our defilements, we shouldn't feel any guilt out of it. Oh, how bad I am jealous. No, it's not how bad I am. I am jealous, yes, this is not good for me and others, yes. But I embrace myself and I direct myself in order to act differently. Through an act of love and kindness towards myself. But I do not allow myself to play too many games around. In the sense, yes, I am jealous, but it's because the person is doing this, so it's not really me to blame and going around. No. This is not good, so stop. Finish. So, with strength and kindness, we direct our actions and our emotions. Okay? So, in this way, we transform the difficult circumstances, the adverse circumstances, on the path to enlightenment. Two ways, karma and defilements. I think it's quite clear, right? So, one part of our daily life we have here. And if we can add, whenever we have a difficult moment, we say, I truly wish to get out of samsara, I truly wish to help others, and to do that I must first find my own peace and harmony, I must first develop my own qualities, so I take this circumstance, although it may be difficult, as an opportunity to grow so that I can help others. If we put it in this way, it's not a pleasurable process, it's not easy, but it brings long-term benefit, middle long-term benefit. It's much more easy just to react and to victimize oneself. It's the easiest thing to do. But it brings middle long-term harm. Okay? So, the next part, it says, Chelakantu gomtu char, or Chelakantu gomla char. So, when the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, transform adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. So, we don't need to fear difficulties, we don't need to fear problems, because they are all opportunities to grow. One other way which we didn't explain is that if I am in front of someone that is acting with a lot of violence and in a negative way, what is the selfish way of reacting? Aversion. How can I love you if you do this? But actually being in front of someone that is acting towards us with aggression and violence is one of the best opportunities we have to train ourselves into true love and compassion towards others. I'm trying not to go into too many details, not to make it too long. But not long ago, I had one experience similar to that, which for me was very precious. Making it short, was a situation in which I did one mistake as I was driving. I was not aware of it. And someone, then when I understood, I went back to the line correctly. Someone from behind was very upset with what I did before. And this person came to me, stopped the car, came out, and started shouting to me. Okay? And I'm not very used that people come in an aggressive mode shouting to me. It's not something that happens daily. Okay? Especially when you don't know even why they're shouting. Then after I understood, no? So, when this happened, for me was a big lesson to try to see, okay, I did a mistake, I acknowledged my mistake, I said sorry for my mistake, and I was in peace with myself. Now, I could see the tendency to react with aggression towards someone that treats me with aggression, and to start to look for faults in the other one, to justify my aggression. And I'm very grateful to that person that allowed me to see this process and not to follow it. Okay? Because that circumstance helped me to increase my own bodhicitta. So when we are in front of someone acting with violence, with aggression, and so on, and we use that circumstance as an opportunity to truly see the other independently of ourselves and manifest our love and compassion towards the other. That's an incredible opportunity that we have. So by this, we also we increase our own bodhicitta through the different difficult circumstances. So we say we use this difficult circumstance as a way, as a method to increase our bodhicitta. If in the difficult moment we are able to reflect and to see how actually it lacks inherent existence, how actually it's appearing as this and that, but that's based on causes, conditions, parts, imputation of the name, it appears as being solid, but it's not. We increase absolute bodhicitta through that moment. Okay? So in other words, we need to apply to every circumstance that we go through. And here we come to the next verse, which says, apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. Apply familiarization. Meditation here is not apply sitting down in silence. It's apply familiarizing yourself. Apply the Lojong training with love and compassion and wisdom and dealing with one's own defilements, recognizing the law of karma. Apply the path on every circumstances, pleasurable or unpleasant. It doesn't matter. I may be in a situation that it's really nice and good, and I am in with friends, and I am enjoying myself so much, inducing myself into pleasures of the body, and so good. In that moment, I dedicate that pleasure, that joy to everyone else. May everyone be able to experience the pleasure that I am experiencing. Okay? At the same time, I can look at that and I say, I enjoy the pleasure, but I don't take refuge in it because I know that it's just an illusion of happiness. It cannot truly sustain happiness. So I'm connecting myself again to the path. When I have a moment of suffering, I go and I transform the moment by connecting. May everyone be free from their suffering through my own suffering. We do the practice of Tonglen. Okay, we explained this some days ago when we were doing Tonglen practice. And we try to use every moment as a way to increase our love, compassion, and wisdom. And this is actually possible. Some days ago we were talking about how can we practice, for example, as we wash ourselves, as we eat, when we go to work, when we talk to others. If we are able to do our daily activities with the awareness of the needs of others, with an attitude that is opposite to our own selfishness, allowing ourselves to see others and seeing that reality appears as it appears to us, but actually it is not in such way. If we are able to see the interdependence, to see how reality is relative, and yet it appears as being true, but it's just relative, it's not absolute. If we can train ourselves into this, then every situation becomes an opportunity to increase the two bodhicittas, relative and absolute bodhicitta, to increase our path to enlightenment. And one of the important keys on our path is to be able to use every situation, every condition, every circumstance as an opportunity to practice the path, to increase the two bodhicittas, to increase love, compassion to ourselves and others, and to increase wisdom. If we do this, then it becomes like moments of meditation and moments of not meditation becomes the same. We are always doing the same. So we are in a constant state of training. And I'm sorry if I put into these words, this is our only true possibility. In the sense that if we do not do a constant training, we are training ourselves in one direction, then when we stop, we are putting energy in the other direction. Instead, when we start putting ourselves in the same direction while meditating and when not meditating and in every circumstance, okay, sometimes we may have more success, sometimes we have less success, sometimes we forget a little bit, we blame others, we victimize ourselves, but then we go back to it again, then we can gradually, truly transform ourselves. So the point is, we shall not fear difficult circumstances. We shall fear not using them correctly. So, our attitude is, it doesn't matter where I will be, with whom I will be, in what situation I will find myself, pleasurable, pleasant situation or unpleasant situation, I will use it as the best opportunity to grow on the path. I will use it as the best opportunity to develop my own love, compassion, wisdom. I will use it in my advantage in order to be able to help others. Okay? So this is like the wisest are those that know how to use every situation into one's own favor. And here, our own favor is to develop our own qualities in order to be able to help others. No? If we make a metaphor, there are some people that they are very good in making business, that when the market goes down, they know how to use that for their own profit. And when the markets go up, they also know how to use that for their own profit. So basically, they make profit when the economy goes up and when the economy goes down. They know how to use every situation for the same objective. Someone that has this capacity have no fear of a financial crisis. They see the financial crisis as a great opportunity. And when the finances go up, okay, another opportunity. Okay, but to do this, we must have the right eyes to see it, which I personally have no, financially speaking. Never even stopped to think in that direction personally. It looks very boring for me, but that's another thing. On the path of the bodhisattva is similar to that, someone that it doesn't matter when things go well or if things go bad, if this is a pleasant situation or unpleasant situation, it's always the same level of opportunity for increasing the relative and absolute bodhicitta, for walking on the path to enlightenment. Okay, so this is the third point of mind training. Transforming the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. But then it comes to the next step, which is interesting, because very often in the Buddhist teachings and practice, there are things that they look to be contradictory, but they are complementary. They appear to be contradictory, but they are complementary. So we have just said, it doesn't matter what circumstances we are in, we should use it as a path to enlightenment. Next, it comes the supreme method of transforming the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment is accompanied by the 4 practices. The 4 practices are 4 things that we can do in our life in order to help to create good conditions. So the point is, we are not yet in the point where every circumstance, positive or negative, is the same. We still depend on conditions. We are still influenced by conditions. So we should do the best in our ability to transform the adverse circumstances into the path. And at the same time, we try to create good conditions for our practice. Okay? So there are 4 actions, 4 practices to be done daily in order to support our spiritual practice, our spiritual path. And these 4 practices are: 1, accumulating merit by act of generosity and offerings, and by dedicating our merits. So is with awareness, we generate positive causes, so-called accumulation of merit. And the best way of doing it is by giving. When we give to someone that has an equal or lesser spiritual development than ours, it's called an act of generosity. When we give to someone that has a higher spiritual development than ours, it's called an act of offering. This is the main difference. But by giving, by sharing, we can give materially, we can give support by giving love, we can act with kindness, we can give physical help, we can smile to others and give love to them, we can share knowledge, we can listen to others people's needs, we can share in so many ways. And ultimately, we can give the Dharma, which is helping others on their own spiritual path. Okay? By giving, we generate a lot of positive energy ourselves, which is necessary to sustain our own path. Because we said before, if there are no causes, there can be no results. We cannot experience that for which we have not created the causes. So we cannot experience states of peace, of satisfaction. Even we cannot experience the correct view of reality unless we have the merits to realize the correct view of reality. Because to realize the true nature of reality is not just a matter of intellectual processing and meditation itself. It needs the support, the backup of positive energy in order to be able to have that experience. Otherwise, it just remains an intellectual process and we don't go through a true profound experience. So, to accumulate merit, it's fundamentally important in our path. Okay? I'm not going now into many details, but it's really, really important. And then we do it in so many ways. We can do it by serving and helping others. For example, most of us, we don't have so much the capability to share the Dharma, to give the Dharma to others. It's not easy to give the Dharma because we cannot give what we have not realized ourselves truly. It's not simple. But what if I help someone that is giving the Dharma to give the Dharma? Am I practicing the generosity of giving the Dharma? Yes. For example, a Dharma center like here? Do we enter in contact with Dharma through the center? Yes. Me, yes, and I believe all of you too. Okay? So the center as a whole entity actually is giving the Dharma. That's the function of a Dharma center. If I support the center by doing my simple karma yoga, by helping financially, by doing any sort of support, I am a part on that, because on the other side, the center doesn't exist independently of everyone that is part of it. But when I am with awareness, I do my part as a way to help others through the Dharma, I am actually giving the Dharma indirectly. And that's a very powerful way of accumulating merit. Why do we need to accumulate merit? Because we want to develop a state of peace, harmony. We want to overcome our defilements, develop our qualities in order to be able to help others. And we need the support of merits, of positive karma, in order to be able to do that. Okay. Now, the second practice, we could go on and on talking about accumulation of merits. But we can accumulate merits with physical action, with verbal action, and with mental action. All the three levels are there. Okay? But it's an important part of our daily life to accumulate positive karma, to accumulate positive energy, to accumulate merits. Second practice that supports the path is to purify our negativities. The practice of purification, making it simple, it means to use specific tools that allows us to get an amnesty of our debts. A purification is when we can eliminate a debt without needing to pay for it or making it less. Okay? How do we do that? I'm not going into details on it, otherwise we stay on it today and tomorrow. But I think soon I have put in the program somewhere in this next few months, there will be 1-2 days dedicated only for explaining and learning and doing together the practices of purification. Okay? But first thing, in order to purify a negative karmic force that we have generated in the past, we need to generate an opposite attitude. So if I did the karma, the action with selfishness, I need to generate altruism. Okay? As most of our negative actions were done with selfishness, when we generate altruism, we already have that opposite force. Okay? Second, but to be precise, let's say I did something out of anger, I need to have compassion or love as an opposite force. Second, I need to openly admit that that action was wrong. I need to look at myself and say, what I did was a mistake. If I would ever get in a similar situation again, I shall never do the same thing again. What I did was wrong. There is no point of feeling guilt here. It's the point of recognizing a mistake as a mistake. Okay? There is a big difference of saying how bad I am that I did this and saying that action was wrong. Again, we shall not judge the person, we shall judge the action. We are not here to judge ourselves if we are good or if we are bad. We are here to judge our own actions. This action is positive, that action is negative. So I recognize, I openly admit that I have done different types of actions that were not good. Okay? Third part of purification, we commit ourselves fully not to repeat such action again. And the fourth type is we generate a positive energy, a virtuous action, in direct opposition to the negative action that was done in the past. So we make one positive karmic force that will go in an opposite direction towards the negative karmic force that was generated in the past. So basically, imagine that we have energy, okay? Two waves. What happens when two opposite waves meet each other? They eliminate each other. They neutralize each other, okay? This is what happens, for example, nowadays there are these very nice, headsets that eliminate external sound, noise. Basically, it has specifically microphones that they listen to the frequencies and they generate an opposite frequency that will eliminate the frequency of the noise. Okay, making it simple. So when we have two opposite forces, they neutralize each other. So by generating an opposite intention, by acknowledging that our action was negative, by committing not to repeat again, we are directing ourselves against that negative karmic force that was generated. And then we do something that is positive. We generate a positive energy, and it goes against that negative force. And one eliminates the other. Okay? And by this way, it's possible to eliminate karmic forces, negative karmic forces that we have created in the past without needing to experience its results. This is called the process of purification, and it's part of our daily practice. Okay? There are different visualizations that can be done. There are different mantras, such as the mantra of Vajrasattva. And if we look, the mantra of Vajrasattva, it is actually reminding ourselves that our nature is empty of inherent existence. That's what the mantra is reminding ourselves. Okay? Because on the basis of every negative action, there is the ignorance of grasping at inherent existence. And the best way of purifying is through these same forces which we said before. So generating a positive attitude, acknowledgement that it was a negative action, commitment not to repeat again. When we are able to meditate to see that the action we did, the one that received the result, the direct result of the action, towards whom the action was made, and the one doing the action, the three parts are empty of inherent existence. When we can meditate in the emptiness of myself as the one doing the action, in the emptiness of the action itself, and the emptiness of the one to whom the action was done, this is one of the best ways of purifying our own negative karma. But I'm not going into details on this now. I'm just saying, in order to give the right support for our path, we need to accumulate merits and we need to purify our negativities. One of the very good parts of purifying negativities, it means that by doing daily practice of purification, what we are doing at the same time is a review of our actions and redirection of our intention. Because they say, oh, what have I done? Oh, yesterday I did this, was not good. Okay, I acknowledge it, I embrace myself, I purify, I generate a positive energy against it, and I commit myself not to do it again. So I am redirecting my actions. And this helps us not to create and to reinforce negative habits. Okay? If we do actions that are negative and we do not acknowledge them, and we do not openly admit them, and we just let them like this, then we will slowly become a stronger and stronger habit. Okay? So from the 4 practices that should accompany our path of Lojong, we have, first one is to accumulate merits, second is to purify our own negativities, negative karmic forces. Okay? Now, third and fourth. The third part and the fourth part is that are related with interferences. Okay? Basically, there are different types of interferences. There are internal interferences, such as fear, doubt, anger, which basically are emotions that take us away from our path. we are doing something in a positive way, we are acting in a virtuous way, we are living in a nice way, then we get emotions that take us away from that path. This is an interference. That's an inner interference. Then there are outer interferences, which is basically actions done from others, an interaction with others that take away the possibility for us to continue on our path. Okay? And then there are secret interferences, which are situations that manifest as being good, but actually they become a blockage. They interfere with our path. Okay? I don't know, one example then can be given is, for example, I truly appreciate very much astrology. I don't think astrology has anything negative, okay? But imagine that at one point of our lives, we are really ready to meditate deeply on the true nature of reality and to develop bodhichitta. We are ready to train very well on relative and absolute bodhichitta. We are really ready to do deep retreat and to concentrate very well on our path. Okay? We have the conditions, we are ready to do it. But we have good knowledge of astrology, and we can help people with astrology. And many, many people come to us again and again asking us to help them with astrology. So we pass a good part of our life helping others with astrology, which is something good. And we never meditate. And one day we die. So the astrology was a secret interference. Why? Because it's an interference for me meditating and familiarizing deeply myself with bodhicitta and wisdom. Okay? Which is better than accumulating merit by helping others with astrology. Again, there is nothing wrong the other way around on helping others with astrology. I think it's beautiful, wonderful, necessary. There is no any issue with it. The point is that sometimes in our lives, there are minor benefits that they block the way for higher benefits. Okay? In Tibetan it said, talam pungu kakpa, when the path of the horse is blocked by the donkey. Okay? Nothing wrong with the donkey, but the horse cannot run because there is a donkey going slowly in the front. So sometimes in our lives, it can happen that there is something really wonderful that we can do of a greater benefit, and we don't do the greater benefit because we get blocked by something that brings a lesser benefit. But the problem is that it's secret because normally we don't see it. Okay? So what do we do in these cases? There are two practices to deal with interferences. The first one, it has to deal mainly with outer interferences. There are two forms of outer interferences, visible and invisible. Basically, there are outer interferences which are done by people, someone that is fighting with us, someone that is creating situations of difficulty and so on, and we are not able to transform them truly. And then, let's say we need to meditate, and then every day there is a lot of noise and many other things. That's an outer interference. Okay? It's part of our practice to transform it into the path, but it's always an interference. Okay? Next, but remember that every interference, if transformed, can be an opportunity. That's another thing. Then there are other types of outer interferences which are subtle beings, so-called in our language spirits. Okay? There are many other forms of life that actually they interact with us. And they can influence our mind. They can influence our health. They can influence our state of being. We can feel more anxiety. We can feel more uncomfort feeling. We can be more distracted. There are different sorts of influence that we can receive from these other forms of life, so-called spirits. So here there are two things to do. The first practice is called acting out of generosity and creating friendship with the spirits by making them gifts. This is the meaning of giving torma offering. or making the tsogla. Whenever we make the Guru Puja tsog offering and we get a little bit of the food of each one and we take it outside, okay, it's a way of saying to this other type of spirits, hello, we are friends, I'm giving something to you. And it is said that these many sorts of spirits, even though they are very less powerful and they are not so important in many ways, but still they can make a lot of small interferences. Okay? Let's make one example. Let's say I need to deal with a big company. Okay? And my business is with the president of the company. But if the person that needs to open the door down doesn't allow me in, it makes a lot of trouble. I need to find ways how to go around. I will become late for my meeting because the person doesn't like me and I cannot go around and so on. So truly who I need to catch is the president, but to give a small gift to the person in the door and a smile and be kind and make a friendship with that person will make my life easier. Okay? This is just a mundane metaphor. So even Geshe Chekawa Rinpoche, he explained to me that, for example, wherever he goes, first time he goes to a place, even if he's like in the hotel, he takes some flowers or a plate of fruit and he places it as an offering, a gift for the local beings, saying, we are friends. And when he came here to Verbania, for example, one day, Geshe Rinpoche took the car by himself and he went down to Intra. And he went to the main church and he brought flowers. Because he says the religious sacred places, independent of religion, is often the places where the local deities reside. So he said, I just went there to make friendship, to say, I am here in peace, let's be friends. Okay? So there are different specific practices that can be done, like the tsogla in the Guru Puja. There are different practices which is called giving the torma offering. I don't know if you have ever seen someone doing this. They normally, when doing this, they can wear a sort of a little hat in front with some hair, and then they give small balls of tsampa or modern sort of conflict some people use. It's like there is a thing of giving, of acting. It's like act of generosity to these beings. And the main point here is, let's make friendship with those around us so we have less problems. And this, it's both for people and for spirits. So, as Rinpoche would say, let's be ego-friendly. Okay? So we have less interference. This is called giving torma, acting with generosity, creating good conditions around us. Yes, Bernard? Okay. Sure. Yes. How to make a difference, understand the difference between actual external interferences and our own projections and fears, no? Okay, to make it short, most of us are not capable to differentiate. Okay? So, the point is less paranoia and more puja. Okay? So, I just make one simple example. Okay, don't need. We go on. But the point is that there are ways to see. Normally, when it is our own fear, the trigger point, the starting point comes from our head. We can feel it more in our mind. Okay? When it is more an external interferences, it's something that first we feel and after we judge. It's something that we can feel first in a more subtle way, and then after we can interpret it. So, but the main point for me, making it short, is there is no point being in paranoia, there is no point being in fear, there is no point having, maybe this is this spirit, maybe that is that. The example I was giving before is this one. One person, one time, that is very sensitive, someone that I know that has a capability of sensitivity. So for instance, this person one time called me, never calls me, called me out of the blank. I was driving my car in Milan, and I have no idea why, with something that is very rare to me to happen, I felt quite nervous, out of the blue. I just felt really nervous. I said, like something coming from inside, like nervousness. And then in this moment, I received this phone call, and this person tells me, "Oh, Lama, don't worry, it's not with you. What you are feeling is something from outside, it has nothing to do with you." I said, "Well, that's interesting, no?" Okay. So just to say, is someone that has a capacity of sensibility. Then one time we made a dinner in Milan, in Kumpen in Milan. And sometimes we used to do before, every year in the center in Milan, one big dinner, once a year at least, and people would bring food and share food together. So there were around 250 people having food that time, and many different people brought food to share, and we don't know exactly what was the issue, but half of the people, even more of the half of the people that were there, had 24 hours of diarrhea afterwards. Okay? So I don't know what was in the food, which was the food, but for me it's a clearly problem of health issue of some food that was there. So the same person at one point come to me and say, "Oh, Lama, you know, after the dinner I was attacked by a spirit and I got 24 hours of diarrhea." And I was saying, maybe if you were attacked by a spirit, I think the spirit attacked everyone else that was there also. Maybe it was something in the food. You know? The danger that is there is that when we start looking through this optics, we start seeing everything into that. Then we fall into the prisoners of fear. And because most of us don't have the capacity truly to understand and judge and so on, the main point is, no need to think about it, don't need to put fear or anything of that. And then we go to the fourth practice, which is we give the responsibility to someone else to take care of this, okay, which are called dharmapalas. So basically, one of the main functions of dharmapalas, so-called dharma protectors, are beings that don't have a gross body, that they see and they live within this subtle world of so-called spirits, and their function is to create the right conditions and to eliminate interferences on a subtle level for those that are following the path of the Dharma. That's why we rely upon Dharma protectors. It's not to make money, it's not to get fame. It's simply because we don't know how to distinguish and how to deal with the subtle forms of interferences. So we don't need to worry about it. We ask someone else to deal with it. It's, let's say, if we have a lot of fear of cyber attack, but we don't understand anything about technology. What we do? We call an expert on cybersecurity, and we say, "Please, you take care of my cybersecurity," okay? So I'm not being in paranoia that whenever I talk in the phone, someone is listening, that something has happened, because there is someone taking care of my cybersecurity that I trust. Similar to that, we have dharmapalas since the time of Buddha. So these are beings that don't have a physical body, that have different levels of spiritual realizations. Some of them are manifestations, they are Buddhas, others are bodhisattvas. There are different levels, but all of them have a very deep commitment to support those that are having a sincere practice of Dharma. So the fourth practice is to rely upon a Dharmapala in order to pacify the subtle interferences and to create positive subtle conditions. So basically, the 4 practices that should accompany and support our practice of Lojong is to accumulate merit, to purify our negativities, to make friendship with our surrounding, physical and non-physical, by connecting with them, by giving gifts. It's like when you go to a new neighborhood, it's not a bad idea to give gifts to the neighbors in the Christmas time or who knows when, and to be kind to them, and to, by acts of kindness we receive back kindness. Okay? So the third part is we take away interferences by creating a positive environment around us through act of generosity. And then those that don't like to make friendship with us and those that may be harmful to us, we don't need to know who they are. We, rely upon a security company in which we say, okay, you take care of my security. Those that don't want to be my friends, you do not allow them to harm me. Okay? And basically what happens regarding Dharmapalas is that when we take refuge with our guru, the security company responsible for his security also take care of us. It's like a sort of health insurance. It just came to my mind. In Brazil, I have my own health insurance because of my grandfather company. So basically, my grandfather extends the health insurance to my father and then extends to me and my sister. So basically, I'm not paying health insurance, but I get health insurance in Brazil because of my grandfather paying it, so it comes down to us. That's making it simple. So similar is to this sort of, let's call, subtle security. So basically, when we take refuge with our guru relied upon a Dharmapala, one or more Dharmapalas. And they have a very deep and strong connection and commitment between each other, which is the objective of the Dharmapala is to support the Dharma and sentient beings, but mainly to support sincere practice of Dharma. And the commitment of the Guru is to support the Dharma by sharing and teaching and so on. So one is helping each other to fulfill their goal. So they make this mutual commitment. So when we take refuge with our Guru, actually we are, knowing or not, we are part of this protection. We are under this protection program. We are under protection. But still, if we acknowledge it and we cultivate this, it helps even for it to work better. Okay? So that's why we have monthly Dharmapala Puja. When we do once a month on the 29th day of the lunar calendar, of the lunar Tibetan calendar, we do Dharmapala Puja. The meaning of that is to create the right conditions so that whatever subtle interferences there may be, may they be eliminated, may we be protected from a subtle level. Okay? We don't need to go into paranoia. We don't need to go into fears and worries and this and that. What we need to do is we need to clearly rely upon a Dharmapala. And there are so many Dharmapalas. Actually, we can make a long, long list of Dharmapalas. Normally they have this sort of fearful appearance, okay? Which manifests because their function is actually to keep away those that are not friendly. Because those that are friendly don't need to be kept away, okay? So the Dharmapalas manifest in this fearful manner because they manifest the energy of opposition in order to oppose to another strong energy and force. Okay? So there are so many Dharmapalas. Normally what we do is we rely upon the Dharmapalas of our own gurus that they give to us. This is how it holds. Okay? So this it goes to the fourth part. So if we see when we do, for example, the practice of the Guru Puja with Tsok offering, everything of this is in sight. There is accumulation of merit, there is purification, there is offering to the local beings out of generosity when we do the Tsok, there is relying upon the Dharmapala, all these are inside the practice, okay? But we need to remind ourselves that to do the 4 practices is not to recite the words of the 4 practices. There is a difference between. There's a difference between accumulation of merit through generosity and reciting verses of offering. It's not the same. The verses are there to direct the mind, but the mind must be directed. If I recite the mantra of a Dharmapala and I do the puja, but my mind is somewhere else, it doesn't truly work that way. We need to make this commitment. And the best offering that we can give to a Dharmapala is our sincere Dharma practice. Okay? We can make all sorts of offerings to the Dharmapala. Any Dharma protector will not protect us unless we are sincere in our Dharma practice. That's their function. Okay? Their function is not for mundane gains and whatever. Okay? It's not like, oh, I need money, let's go to pray for some protector. No, this doesn't work in this way. Okay? There is one part explaining how to rely on a Dharmapala, which is at exactly this point in the commentary of Horton Nankapel, which is the commentary of Lama Tsongkhapa, written by Horton Nankapel but taught by Lama Tsongkhapa. There is one whole page explaining how to rely on the Dharmapala here. And the essence is more or less what I've been saying. We rely upon the Dharmapala in order to support our own spiritual path, to support our practice of Dharma. This is the main thing, okay? So this is the practice of Dharmapala. Now, I wanted today to go even to the next point, but okay, so what we will do is that I had 2 possibilities. One was today to reach point 5, to conclude point 5, and tomorrow to do 6 and 7, okay? But what we will do is that tomorrow we will do point 4 and 5, and then we make another moment to do point 6 and 7. We take the advantage that we have technology nowadays, so those that are here these days and cannot be here when we will do it, which I need to make time for it, can follow it online also. But I prefer to do it with calm. There is no hurry to finish. Otherwise, we are here running, and then, there is no point to say we concluded the 7 points mind training. The point is we need to practice it sincerely. We need to start following it in the right way. Okay? So, the essence of today, of the 3rd point, which is to transform adverse circumstances into the path, and at the same time, create positive circumstances. It's interesting because it looks contradictory, but actually it's complementary. Okay? We don't need interferences. And interferences are there to be seen as interferences. What does that mean? When we see an interference as an interference, we do not follow it. But the main danger is when we see an interference as something to be followed. Our fear, our uncertainty, our resentment, we follow it. Okay? And the greatest danger when we come to talk about spirits and all these things, as our friend Bernard was saying, is to enter into this prison of fear. We start to make things up and to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? And then we have fear of what is called the shadows without form. The shadows without form are not a sort of bad spirit. Shadows without form actually are our fears. Shadow of something that doesn't exist. We make a shadow of something that is not there. Okay? So there is no point of having fear. Okay? But still, it's good to rely upon a Dharma protector. And if we practice the Dharma truly, sincerely, and we rely upon a Dharma protector with the correct heart and attitude, then we have nothing to fear, other than our own defilements and karma. Okay? So, when we are in difficult circumstances, nothing to fear, but we need to look at it with maturity and say, okay, what can I learn from this situation? How can I grow within this situation? Why am I suffering in this situation? What is the conflicts that are manifesting inside of me through this situation? And even though our natural urge is to escape from the situation, we stay within it until we can be peaceful within it. That's the best. Then we can change it. Because what is our experience in life also? When there is a situation that we experience in a negative way and we run away from it, then we encounter it again on the next corner. Okay? So we don't need to run after adverse circumstances. We need to deal with them, sure. But as we deal with the practical external issues, we need also to deal with our fears. We need to deal with our conflicts. We need to deal with all the inner processes that are generating suffering. And the best is when we are able to be in front of the situation and be in peace with ourselves, not having any more that conflicts. Then at that point we can say, okay, I don't need the situation anymore, finish. Okay? So, adverse circumstances are a great opportunity for us to A, diminish our negative karma, which is something good, and B, to deal with our own defilements, to see our negative habits, to see our defilements, and then to put energy into not nourishing and applying the antidote. This is what we should do mainly. Okay? So, from all the Lojong practice, this is one of the most important parts. Transforming adverse circumstances into the path. Otherwise, what happens is that we can be very good meditators, we can be wonderful practitioners when the conditions are there, but we shouldn't, but if it happens that when the conditions are not good, we are not practicing, then, it's as we said before, I can good practice 3 hours a day, and what about the other 21? Then there is a Tibetan saying, which goes by, Töja nime töna chöbe suk, dunga toktu babna tamalpa, saying what we shouldn't do, which is, when well fed and under the nice sun, we are a great Dharma practitioner. When under strong suffering, when suffering falls on our head, then we are just an ordinary person. Which means when we are in a difficult moment, we react like everyone else, even worse maybe. When everything is beautiful and we are in a comfortable situation, we are well fed and under the nice sun and everything is nice and people are saying how good you are, then I am very good practitioner because emptiness here and bodhichitta there, and because of this, and I do this, and I am generous, and I have this, and I have that. I am the most great practitioner. Then the first difficulty, there I am, shouting and reacting badly and suffering so much and so on. We shouldn't allow ourselves to go in that way. We should be a good practitioner when we are well fed and under the sun, but appear to others in an ordinary way. We don't need to appear to others as a great practitioner. This is coming after in the commitments and in the advices. And when we are in difficult circumstances, that's when we really need to show to ourselves that we are a good practitioner. That's the real moment to keep our morality, to keep our commitments, to act out of compassion, to deal with our selfishness, to deal with our anger. That's the moment when we need to do it. So if we really, really want to grow spiritually, if it's truly a priority to us to develop our qualities and deal with our defilements, difficult moments are welcome. We don't need to go to look for them, but when they happen, welcome. What can I learn today? Interesting. Let's see what part of myself I haven't seen yet, which I will not follow. I will allow it to manifest, but I will not follow it. I will not nourish it. Okay? And if we are able to go through this truly, then we make our everyday life and every circumstance meaningful. Okay? Please, Bernard. The point is that meditation often is, the meaning of meditation is familiarization, okay? And I'm sorry if I am very direct, but in our society, in the context in which we are, most of us are not ready yet to stay on long time silent meditation and to go into deep meditation. It's something I hope we all need to train ourselves for that. But most of us, we don't have the right training and the right conditions to do it. So this doesn't mean we cannot practice the Dharma. This doesn't mean we cannot grow on our path. We need to start doing what we call practice, which is true recitation and visualization and concentration. We must do it as much as is possible for us. Remembering ourselves that in many of what we call practices, the so-called sadhanas, it has 3 levels: what to recite, what to visualize, and which states of consciousness to generate. And the objective is not to recite, but is to generate certain states of consciousness and to familiarize oneself with it. For example, the Guru Puja. As we do the practice of the Guru Puja, there is what to recite. Beautiful. So the first level is we learn how to recite. We learn the meaning of the words. We learn the recitation, which has its very great importance. Second level, we learn the visualization. How we get busy with our mind as we recite. What do we imagine? And visualizations will help us to induce ourselves to certain states of consciousness, to certain thoughts and emotions. Together with the meaning of the words, united with the visualization, direct our mind in a certain way. Bringing us to the third level of the practice, which is the different states of consciousness that we generate, such as in the beginning there is refuge and bodhichitta, then there is the connection of taking refuge in the Guru, then there is a part of generating gratitude by making offerings. There is all as we go along, okay, the practice. So, the practice, it's truly very important. Still, we can familiarize ourselves with the path in our daily life by how we relate to all sorts of situations. And this is very important, and it's no lesser at any way. But we need both. We need formal practice, which is formal meditation, which can be done through recitation and visualization, together with familiarizing ourselves with certain states of consciousness. And what happens in our Tibetan tradition very often is that if we go to someone and say, you need to generate this, and that state of mind, most people say, that's too difficult. If I say, oh, you need to visualize this, and that, okay, but this is too difficult. Just recite. That's easy. I can do it. So there is one point which is very often the tradition became just to recite. In Tibetan it's called, even when you say do your daily practice, it's used the word kandan or shendan, which means to recite from the mouth. Okay? So it became like the recitation became like the focus point. But the recitation exists actually to give support to the visualization and to the meditation on different states of consciousness. So we should familiarize our practice first with the recitation, then with the meaning of what we recite, then with the visualization, and then we use this as a tool to generate our certain states of mind to familiarize ourselves with it. Okay? And this formal practice, it's very important in support to our daily actions and to our daily way of practicing the Dharma on our daily life. And one supports the other. What we call, tundan tunsam gineljor, the yoga during sessions and in between sessions. Sessions means formal practice, formal meditation, which is also very important, okay? We could go on for many other aspects of it right now. But in essence, we need to be in a constant state of training. And when we sit down to meditate, with recitation or without, with visualization or without, there are different methods for it, all very valid. As we do it, we are actually pushing ourselves one step beyond what we can normally do in our daily activities. We are connecting ourselves with our qualities into a maximum potential. It's very powerful tools, because the way how we deal to external reality in our daily life, it's a reflection of the state of our own mind. And through the practice with visualization and the recitation and visualization and the meditation, it helps us to develop certain inner qualities, to familiarize our mind with certain inner states. And this is something that is also very, very important. So the two things need to go together, okay? But as I said before, in the case of many of us, we are not yet truly ready to sit down and do many hours of meditation, okay? Which is okay. It's just we need to respect the steps in which we are. There is no anything wrong with it, you know? In the Gelugpa tradition, before someone will actually sit to truly meditate deeply, normally they do like at least 18 to 25 years of study before. Okay? So it means there is a need of preparation behind. So the preparation comes by accumulating merit, purifying, learning the meaning, applying to our daily life, studying, also training with recitation, with visualization, and all of this at one point comes together to a moment in which we can truly induce our mind to incredible states and familiarize ourselves with it. Okay? But just to make short, the two aspects are very important in our path. Okay? So even in the Lojong, we saw clearly the way of training ourselves, both in relative and absolute bodhicitta, is divided into two. How to train during sessions of meditation and how to train in between sessions of meditation. And we need to apply both. We have a tendency to imagine that understanding and applying in daily life is enough. Learning and understanding and applying to our daily life the Dharma is incredibly important, but I'm sorry to say it is not enough. There is also the need of formal practice, formal meditation. It is also necessary. Okay? According to our own level of preparation and knowledge and experience, we follow the path. Okay? So as we said these other days, there is no hurry to reach the result. There is a big hurry to be on the right path. We have no hurry to be there. There is even one of the commitments of mind training, which says, don't sprint to win the race. Okay? Which is the commitment number 16. Which means don't try to be the first one of the class. There is no hurry to reach enlightenment. There is a hurry to walk on the right direction, to make the right steps. This, yes. And we have all the conditions with us. Okay. So we make our dedications for today.
Sashi peke chukshi medo tram rirab lingshe nide gembadi sange shindu mikte ulwargi drogun namda shingla che par sho jetsun lame kutse raptenchi nam karatinle chokchur gepadam losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munsela taktu ne gyurchi Yedam Guru Ratna Mandrala Kam Niryatayami Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Dan Ralme Cheki Pela Longche Chim Sadan Lamge Yundera Change Kopa Nyur Tobe Sho Nimo Dele Tsendele Nime Koyan Delek Nitsen Takto Delek Pe Kuncho Sumke Chingelo Kuncho Sumke Ngodrubutsol Kuncho Sumke Trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Omahun, Tembalame, Sangye Rinpoche, Kyobalame, Tamche Rinpoche, Trimbalame, Gendo Rinpoche, Kyamne Kuncho Sumla Chepa Bulocho, Sambo Pagyo Trashipa, Tuche Tembe Trinleya, Pegye Drolo Zambeze, Ame Shela Chepa Bu. Buon appetito. Grazie a tutti. Thank you very much.